Jesus, the gardener, the homeless guy, and probably the group of people you're most uncomfortable with. Hey, Pastor Mo here. We are going to talk about the account of Jesus's risen life in John 20. When Mary goes to the tomb to anoint his body, she doesn't find him there. She begins to weep, and then she turns and sees the gardener. Or so she thinks it's the gardener, but it's Jesus. I couldn't help but think, how many times has Jesus made himself known in our own lives to be there to give us comfort, and yet we didn't recognize him? I couldn't help but think about a time when I was working at the cathedral, and a woman who had lots of money was telling a story how she had an encounter like this, how her son was severely autistic, and she had gone everywhere and done everything to help him with some auditory issues he was having, and she just couldn't find any help. She began to grow incredibly hopeless. And so one day she just couldn't handle it anymore. She left the cathedral. She went outside during service one day and began to sob. Now, she admitted there was a group of people that she did not care for. It was the homeless. She said they just bothered her. They always did. She didn't understand why they wouldn't just go out there and get a job. And so one day she's sitting there sobbing up against the side of the building, and who comes and stands next to her but a homeless man? Now, normally she said she would have just jumped up with disgust and walked away, but she was so broken down, she just continued to sob. He asked her if everything was okay, and she said she doesn't know what happened, but she just began to tell her whole story, how she had exhausted her resources and her finances and gone everywhere and done everything to try to help her son. And as she told this story, the gentleman then says to her, well, I'm also autistic, and here are some things that worked for me. And he began to tell some of the story and some of the stuff that he did, and she was shocked, but then she took those things and she applied them to her son's life to see if it would make any difference. And lo and behold, it did. Little by little, her son began to talk more, become more comfortable with certain things, and she was shocked. She never saw this homeless man again. But I couldn't help but think how God works through the most unexpected and unlikely of people. And so I want us to think about this in our own lives. Let's be careful. Maybe it's not the gardener. Maybe it's not a group of people we're uncomfortable with. Maybe it's Christ trying to make himself known in our very lives to bring us exactly what we need. God bless.